Well, here we are. We are at the mountains right now. We have the all-new 2020 Shelby GT500 and the GT350R, two completely different cars, but the two hottest Shelbys right now on the market. You can actually buy a GT350R for more money than the new 2020 GT500. The question is, which one should you buy? Which one is a better driver's car, especially on the roads? Here's the deal. I'm gonna hop inside the new 2020 Shelby GT500, drive it up the mountain, then back down again, give you guys a good idea of what it's like to drive. And then after that, I'm gonna jump inside the GT350R to give you instant feedback. When Ford is building the new 2020 GT500, obviously they had to raise the bar over the GT350. How are they gonna do that? Well, obviously the 350 only has 526 horsepower, so it's not really comparable to the ZL1 or the ZR1 Corvette. Those cars have 650 or 755. To really make what the GT350 is and bring it to the next level, they put a supercharger on that V8. They had to. What do you do after that? Well, you have a ton of more heat now. You got to amp up that cooling. That's why you have double the airflow with the new GT500 versus the GT350. So Ford had to design this car this way. Plus, these hood vents are a clear example. Everything that you see here is functional. This car generates the same amount of downforce as the GT350R, and the front end is not as aggressive, so you really don't have to worry about bottoming it out at all. Owning this car, funny fact is that when it's raining or it's wet outside, the water down below gets blown up right here in this tiny corner down here of the front splitter wicker, and then all of that water gets pushed up with the air impacting it, so the entire front end right here gets covered in water. So a weird feature of driving this new GT500. A big complaint with the GT350 was that the hood itself vibrates at high speed. So what did Ford do to fix that? They have these hood pins on the front end. These things work so well, so easily, and I'm noticing that it really helps the front of the hood not shaking at high speed. But I have to say this though, on track and driving over 100 miles an hour, the back part of the hood towards the driver, this part shakes just as much as the GT350. Also, let's rewind a bit. With the supercharger and all the increased cooling, this car is going to weigh more. Well, what do you do when you have a car that weighs 400 pounds more than the car it's trying to improve upon? So the GT350R, it weighs 3,650 pounds. Without the AC, I believe, and with the AC, the electronics package, it weighs 3,700. This car right here weighs 4,184. That's with a full tank of gas. Big difference, right? How do you make this car stop as good as the GT350R? Well, you put bigger brakes on. However, there's an issue with that. You can no longer have 19-inch wheels. This time around, we have 20-inch wheels with massive 16.5-inch front brakes. Plus, looking at it, you'll notice that the rotors themselves, they're completely smooth. So being smooth, there's more surface area for the brake caliper to bite on to make this car slow down even better. Let's keep walking back, and you'll notice this right here. Well, first of which, the badge, it doesn't say GT500 like the GT350 does on the sides. It shows the actual name of the car. This time around, yes, you have the new Cobra, but what do you notice right here versus the GT350? Those front vents, they're gone. Ford said this car didn't need it. The front end on the new GT500 is still that wide body design, but instead, those vents are completely gone. And moving down, you'll see this. The same side skirt design as the GT350, but you have a second lower side skirt below it. What exactly does that do? I'm told that it helps block all the rocks and rubber that gets thrown off the wheels from hitting the car. So looking back, this car has been to a ton of track days, and you don't see any rubber right here, right? Well, let's walk to my GT350R. I recently took this to the track, and I did not take off all the tire marks just to show you guys the main difference. So moving this way, what do you see right before the rear wheel? All these rubber marks. With the new GT500, I'm not having that at all, ever. I went to Willow Springs Raceway and Buttonwillow Raceway with that car, and not one rubber mark on the side. Thank you, Ford, for fixing that, if that's what it does. Thank you for doing that. We finally made it to the rear of the 2020 GT500. It has the same rear spoiler design as the GT350s nowadays, the 2019, with the gurney flap. So as I mentioned earlier, same amount of downforce on this new GT500 as the GT350R. Also, a funny complaint with the GT350s was that, hey, my exhaust tips, they look cool, but they're not really attached. They're attached in the rear diffuser. Not anymore with the new GT500. These exhaust tips, they are attached to the exhaust system themselves. And well, that basically sums it up. That is the exterior styling differences with the new GT500 base model versus the GT350 and the R. Here we go, car number one, the 2020 Shelby GT500 with 760 horsepower. This car is so smooth to drive in the DCT. It shifts so quickly. Right here, coming to a corner, downshifting. And the car downshifts instantly. In mid-corner, the front end grip is amazing. And the power, the pull, oh my gosh. To me, this feels like more than 760 horsepower. And through these switchbacks, it's surprising just how well this car can corner. This car weighs so much more than the R, and I feel like the grip is amazing. This is the kind of car that'll get you in a lot of trouble very quickly. You gotta really watch out, especially on the street. The only way to experience what this car completely has is on the racetrack. But just right now, having fun in this car, driving it, it's a blast. You just keep wanting to go faster and faster, and the faster you go, it doesn't even feel like you're going quick. Like 60 miles an hour feels like 30. And even full throttle, man, the way this thing puts down the power, there's no slippage. In downshifting just there, car, the back end feels planted. Click and hold, it'll downshift you to lowest gear. The visibility though is perfect. Getting inside this car, it feels very smooth, and it does feel like a $70,000 to $80,000 car. Now, I'm not sure if you would want to pay the $30K over markups, the $20K over markups, because in all honesty, it's not exactly worth it, because this car is a Mustang, and sitting in here, you do have the same basic interior you have in a Mustang GT or a Mustang EcoBoost. However, you'll find changes like the carbon fiber dash, also the LCD display, which is I think a $2,000 option on all the normal Mustangs, $1,000 to $2,000 option. Also, the steering wheel feels very nice. It does have an Alcantara build, and the grip it gives you is exactly what you're looking for. And I love that white stripe right there in the middle to give you a good idea of how much you're pointing in. All GT500s have white accents. The entire interior features that actually. Even the seats, the entire trim line on these Recaro seats are finished in a white. Well, actually Ford calls it gray, but in person most people are gonna think it's just white. If you're an average sized person like me, these seats, they hug you in perfectly, but at the same time, they're not as rough and uncomfortable as some of the race bucket seats out there. There's a fire. I can smell a fire up here on the mountain. Wow. This car, though, it feels so planted. It feels so fast. No longer can Mustangs not corner, especially the GT500. Those downshifts are addicting. Whoa. The best part about it is that 760 horsepower, it's not too much for the car. The entire vehicle feels composed the entire time, and I don't feel any tire slippage whatsoever. It feels planted and full throttle. Going full throttle, the car just hooks, like right now, watch. So that's cool. Now, I did an upshift right away, and as you notice there, the car, it did an upshift for me. Full throttle pull. Oh my gosh, the way this thing picks up speed. I definitely understand the hype for this car, I really do. I'll be honest though, in these turns, the car does feel a bit heavy. It feels on the heavier side. And that's just something that you just have to deal with the GT500. Ford did their best to try to make this car light. And at the end of the day, you're gonna feel the weight, but for the most part, the MagneRide keeps this car very composed, very, very planted, and it makes it so that this can turn like a sports car, like a supercar. The vehicle is a bit big. In corners, the whole car, it's on the larger side, it feels like. Oh my gosh, this car is a rush, absolute rush. Let's put it back in park. So you spin this and then you push up on the parking brake and that's it. Okay, here we go, hopping inside the GT350. Clutch in, engine start. Oh, this thing sounds good. Let's go ahead and change the mode to sport mode. Loud mode is on, the exhaust is wide open. And let's leave in sport mode and let's double check if exhaust mode is on. Oh my gosh, this car, everything is vibrating in here. It feels like an absolute race car all the time. And it's much louder in this car than the GT500. The Voodoo is screaming its way into the entire cabin. And that's only 4,000 RPMs. Oh my gosh! This car feels crazy. It feels alive. I can feel every single bump on the road. In the new 500, I didn't experience that. The new 500 definitely feels much more soft, much more refined than this car. That being said, I feel like the GT350, the R in particular, it's much lighter. I can turn this car much easier. It feels more agile than the GT500. But again, this car does have carbon fiber wheels on it. That makes a huge difference. And the brakes, oh my gosh, it feels so good. And shifting, it makes it crazier than it is because yes, this car only has 526 horsepower, but having to manually shift as quick as you possibly can makes it feel like the car is faster than it is or is more going on. You're doing much more in this car versus what you do in the GT500. This thing feels crazy. This car is more of a handful than the new GT500, but I feel like I can corner it much faster. This feels like a track car to me. This feels like a race car. Oh my gosh. I don't know what to say. The noises this car makes all the time, it's way more intense than the GT500 is. In these corners, I feel like the new 500's a bit big. In this, I don't feel that way at all. I feel like I can throw this anywhere I want, and it's like an extension of me. And the car is only as good as I am. That being, if I can't speed shift, the car won't shift quickly. If I can't rev match downshift, the car won't smoothly downshift. Oh my gosh! And it slows down so fast. The brakes, it feels like it doesn't slow down any slower than the new GT500, even though the new 500 has way bigger brakes. I think both the GT500 and this car brake just as good as each other. And you may be wondering, well, why is that the case? Yeah, the brakes on the new GT500 are way bigger, but at the same time, this does weigh less. So in my opinion, I feel like both cars stop in like the same distance. The way this thing turns, it's so light. I can just throw this car around any direction I want, and I don't feel like it's a big vehicle. And every time downshifting in this car to go fast, it sounds so good. Like watch right now, second to first. Oh my God. As you can tell, we do have harnesses in this car, and that is because this is my car, and tracking it, you really do want harnesses in the sense of it keeps you in one place, in one position. On track, these harnesses work great. And speaking of the interior though, what else is really prominent? All the accents in this car are red instead of white. And the reason for that is because with the new GT500, those white accents help to showcase how different it is from each vehicle. So the normal GT350 has like the black accents. This car has red accents for the R. Plus, these are the same seats you get with the new GT500. Instead, they are leather in the new GT500, and again, they have those white accents. Areas where the new GT500 is better than this car. This car, it feels harder to drive. I will say that. This car is much harder to drive than the new GT500. The 500 makes everything easy all the time. There's a reason why the base model is faster than this car on the racetrack. With the DCT and plus leaving the car in automatic mode, you can have a lot of fun with that car and not worry about anything, and not stress out. With this, if you want to go fast and you want to speed shift or rev match down shift, you can mess that up. It feels much more like a track car because the entire vehicle, it feels raw all the time. And it keeps you on notice because the front end, the steering feels light, which is good, I like that, but you can feel everything on the road. It feels like it can corner faster than the new GT500. It feels like it can brake as late as the new GT500. When it comes to getting on the power, the new 500 is much easier to drive fast and it's much quicker. Think of the GT500 like this. The handling characteristics of a GT350, however, add a few pounds to it. The 500 feels like the supercar, the refined but fast Lamborghini versus the Lotus. Well, driving fast with the GT350R, I feel on edge the entire time. If I mess up one shift, or if I'm not driving the car right, I can upset the entire balance of the vehicle, which makes it kind of fun at the same time. It feels like it's a pure race car all the time. The noises it makes when I'm driving this, all I can hear is the flat plane crank echo off everything in each downshift. It wants to rev to 8,000 RPM all the time. This car starts at a tiny bit more than that. Now, let's be honest, the GT350R you can get for MSRP. The GT500, a lot of dealerships out there, I'd say a good majority of dealerships are charging 5, 10, 15, even in SoCal, 30K over sticker. You can get this car for much cheaper. And it all depends on who you are. If you want a challenge, you get this. Obviously the GT500 is the newest Shelby out. It's got the DCT transmission, the first ever for a Mustang, and it works flawlessly. It feels like a race transmission all the time. But that being said, to some people, getting in the car and spinning that rotary dial gear selector and going to drive and being automatic all the time, it kind of feels sluggish. It kind of feels laid back. With this, it's not like that at all. You get inside of it, and all the time, you gotta be focused. You gotta watch your RPM gauge because you have to shift it. Obviously, this car is way quicker than the GT350R. It runs 10.625 mile. At least that's what we ran with it, right? 10.6 at 133 mph. I think that's the record for a stock GT500 still, actually, which is pretty cool thinking about it. But that's 100% off the PS4 tires that I bought the car with, drove 1,000 miles the same day I went on the track. Ran a 10.625 mile, and plus it can corner, right? It can turn like a GT350. So if you want the best all-around Mustang you can get, and you don't mind giving up the manual transmission, you want new, you want the future, you get the GT500. If you're a fan of a driver's car and not so much of a car that drives you, you get the GT350. Hey, also, we have a major surprise for the channel right now. Something just came in the mail yesterday, actually. I want to show it to you guys. I want to thank all of you for being part of the channel for as long as you have. This has been such a crazy journey, so exciting, and I never would have thought we'd ever get one of these. As you can see right here, we've got something from YouTube. You may know what this is, you may not know what this is. I've got a good idea. Opening it up, let's remove this cover. Right away, we've got a letter from the CEO of YouTube, Susan, basically congratulating the channel for hitting 100,000 subscribers. And I still can't, that's crazy. It really is crazy. And check this out, what a great note. It says, congratulations on your subscriber milestone. This award was inspected and packaged with great care by Rick. That's pretty cool. And here we have it right here. We're gonna walk in the sunlight. You can see how cool this thing looks in front of both cars. Here we go. Presented to the Speed Phenom YouTube channel for passing 100,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button. Really does help me out, and subscribe for much more great Shelby videos coming your way. The comparison, we finally did it. GT350 versus GT500 on the road. Stay tuned though, because our carbon fiber track package GT500 should get built very soon. And if that car is that good, the track pack's going to be even better. Thanks for watching again, and I'll see all of you in the next episode.